My name is Nikolai, and this year I was lucky enough to win the SDSI Service Design Strategies and Innovations Erasmus Mundus Scholarship that not only pays for your tuition for the SDSI Masters program, but also gives you a monthly stipend of 1,400 euros to pay for all your living expenses, travel costs, etc., and focus fully on your studies. So right now there's so many people reaching out to me asking so many questions, all the questions I had previously as well. And on the side of our main project, I don't know if we can really answer everyone and give everyone the time they deserve. So I'm doing this video to answer all the main questions, to really go over how exactly I did it, all I know about the process. And if there's any kind of question that has not been answered in this video, just look into the comments and I will try to answer all the other questions there so that people can also find answers down there. And then if you need some personal feedback, obviously just hit me up again or one of my classmates. As always, the timestamps are down below. So use this guide as a resource. Just bookmark it and then come back to it in every stage you need advice on or if you need any kind of question answered. And with the timestamps, you can just jump back to the part that you really need right now. Alright, but now let's get started. What is SDSI? SDSI is a Service Design Masters program that is part of the Erasmus Mundus programs. Those programs happen not only in one university, but 2 or more. In case of SDSI, it is 3 universities in Finland, Estonia and Latvia. I'm in a class of around 30 people and the first entire year is spent in Latvia, a small country in the Baltics. Not in Riga, the capital, but the small town of Kuldiga, which is a UNESCO heritage site with the biggest, you should more so say the longest, broadest waterfall in Europe, which is still very impressive, very nice, but it's definitely not the tallest. Here in the first semester, I was taught the basics of service design by the Art Academy of Latvia. And then the second semester is more business and leadership focused, not taught by the Art Academy of Latvia per se, but through a collaboration with the Stockholm School of Economics in not Stockholm, but Riga. And then after that second semester, you can decide where to go for your third semester. So either you first go to Lapland or to Tallinn in Estonia. And then for the fourth semester, you switch again. So if you land to Lapland, you go to Estonia, do your thesis there, or the other way around. This is a big question that many people were very confused about. And it's quite simple, but maybe not that well explained on the otherwise amazing website. Every year, about 30 people get accepted to SDSI, and the top 20 applications get scholarships. It is not like there's a separate application process to get the scholarship or not. You just apply normally, and then the top 20 people get the scholarship. That means that if you just normally apply and in the first round get into the top spots, you have the chance to get the scholarship. How I understand, from there the process goes like this. After getting into the top spots of the first round, the top 60 people or so get invited for the first interview round. That first interview round is like the second application round and will be graded as well. And then when the interviews are done, your grades from the first round and the interview round get combined. And then there will be a ranking based on those things. And then the top 20 people get offered the scholarships. 15 just the normal Erasmus Mundus scholarship, and then 5 more to support certain regions. People that got the top spots below the ones that got offered the scholarship will get the option to study self-paid. And then there's a short period of them waiting for people to accept or to not accept. And then based out of that, they invite for a second round of interviews the people that didn't make it into the first round, to give them a chance to study self-paid. This is at least how I understand this entire process, but it's explained and documented on the website as well. But now finally to my application process. For me it was a tiny bit hectic because it just so happened that it overlapped with my thesis, and so I had not that much time to actually work on it, even though I thought about it a whole lot. First off, let's go over the timing. The application timeframe opens up in November and closes in February. The exact dates are on the website. Because of that overlap with my thesis, I really needed time to finish it up in the end. So I finished my application basically on the last day, on the last couple of hours, and I still got the scholarship. So I have two pieces of advice here. First off, if you're thinking that applying early will give you some kind of a bonus, I don't think it will. I think it's much more beneficial to just put enough time into the application, or at least as much time as possible. The second part is to not do it like I did it and don't apply too late. Because what they told us is that if you apply, let's say, a week or 2 weeks before the end, or even further in front of it, they can just review your application and tell you if anything is missing. And if you do it like I did it, you don't have that freedom. If you really messed up something in your application process, something is missing, they will just deny that application. And yeah, I don't think you want that to happen, especially if you put in a lot of time and work into your assignment or something. So yeah, those are just my 2 cents on the timing. But now let's go over how to actually apply. You just go onto the SDSI website and there is the admission part. There's one of the best guides I've ever seen for any kind of application process there, where they explain basically every single step, next steps, etc. So in that guide, you see the Dream Apply. That is just the application portal they are using, where you upload all of your data. I think in general, it just works very good. I was just a little bit confused because there's, I think, 2 parts that say the same thing. So I was a little bit confused in the beginning, but I think it works great. Don't worry about that part. But now let's go over all the stuff you need to apply with. Depending on when you watch this video, some things might have changed, so definitely double check on the website. Educational documents. Educational documents, obviously just because it is a master's program, and so you need to prove that you have a bachelor degree. So they're asking for, I think, a transcript of records and your official diploma. Obviously, there's a caveat depending on your situation. If you did your degree a long time ago, then it's all great and you have your diploma. But in my case, I had the situation going where I was ending my bachelor degree in February as well. So I didn't know if I would have my diploma and my transcript ready for the application. Luckily, I did, but only very last minute. But I imagine if you, for example, know that you will graduate in March, that might be an issue for you. But I heard that there's a small fix for this, which is that you just need to provide some kind of document from your university stating that you will achieve your degree before the SDSI study starts. And the details of that are all on the website, if I remember correctly. But yeah, definitely look into that. Or maybe write SDSI an email or something. Secondly, there's the entire English proficiency topic, which is, yeah, a big one. Makes a lot of sense because, well, the program is in English, and so it makes sense that they ask you to certify a certain level of English. They accept a lot of different tests and need a certain level of the results or a certain mark hit in those standardized tests. When I applied, I used the Duolingo English test because it seemed to be the cheapest and most convenient and it worked perfectly. But there is one small thing that didn't work that well with that test. Because when I tried to apply for a different university as well, that didn't accept that one. Because it's not one of those normal standardized tests. But that was also when I realized a big mistake I made. So, if you are from a European country like Germany, for example, most likely your high school diploma already certifies you to have that level of English already. Which means I could have just handed in my high school diploma to SDSI like I did then with the other university. So if that applies for you, just save your money. And for the people that it doesn't apply to, I realize that this part can be super frustrating. Especially if you are from a country like Pakistan or India, where well, you have a certain English level, but it doesn't apply the same way. But I guess it just is how it is, and we can't change anything about this process. Resume or CV? This part I just try to stick as closely as possible to the brief they gave. So I just tried to make a very simple CV with all the information they gave. Personal and contact information, overview of education, work experience, language skills, computer and software skills, other activities, hobbies and interests. Because how I understand it, this part is just you have provided it or you haven't. So it's not really evaluated in any kind of way. You just have to provide the things they asked for. And then all the scans of your personal documents, your passport, etc. Where I just tried to take a good picture / good scan. And that basically was it. The only thing there is maybe that your passport has to be valid throughout the entire period. So maybe you have to look into getting a renewed passport and doing things like that. So that might be a hurdle there. But if your passport is all valid for the entire period, then it's just a scan and you're done with it. But now off to the big things in the room. The assignment details you find in the assignment PDF, which right now I found here on the website. Video letter of motivation. This thing is worth 20% of your final score of the first round, which is quite a lot. And one of the 2 hurdles you have to overcome to get to that scholarship. It is like a regular letter of motivation, but well, in video form, which honestly was super nice for me because I really like video production, but it was also very intimidating because to just push down, condense all of your personality and interest in this program and history and what else in those 3 minutes was very stressful. But honestly, I believe that having it in video form is much better than, for example, doing a 3-minute live presentation. Because in a video form, you can cut things. You can make things intentional. You can make several takes of things. So it gives you a lot of room to really define it. There are 3 parts they want to see. First, personal introduction. Insights about your personality, values, your outlook on life. Describe where you currently stand in your academic and/or professional journey. Highlight your relevant professional experiences, skills, and accomplishments. Explain why you're interested in studying service design. Explain how the acquisition of service design skills will benefit your future professional and personal development. Explain your expectations of SDSI. First off, in a little bit of a paranoid way. Because like with the CV, I was very conscious of having all of those parts in there, answering all the questions that they post in the PDF. What I also wanted to do is to tell some kind of a story, to have a coherent experience or narrative running from the beginning to the end, which would serve like 2 or 3 purposes. Just getting them easier in and through the entire video, then also having them be invested and giving them the feeling that part of my journey has to be SDSI, so they have to accept me. And then thirdly, just remembering it, because telling it in a story format, I think makes it much easier to also remember a story. I also really tried my best to not only talk about things, but then also show them on screen. Because it is a video, you have the opportunity to do that, to just put in videos or photos of the events you're talking about. And I really felt like this is not only adding to the watching experience of the video, making it nicer, but also actively helping you to establish your case, to provide more credibility. Because just like in a theory paper or article where you are quoting things, here you're giving yourself credibility. When you say you did something, you also show it and they see you really did that thing. So even unconsciously, they can't believe that, oh, maybe that person is just talking about it. Basically, whenever saying something, you can also provide evidence. Collecting those photos and videos might take a little bit of time. For example, I had to get some of the photos from my family. But I believe that this is really worth it. Something else. Obviously, because I like to produce videos, I already had a lot of equipment for it. So like a camera, a microphone, tripod, lights at that point. Right now, there's a window here. But you might not be in that position. But if you have the opportunity and have a friend that has all those things and you can just lend it from them, obviously that is a little bit of a bonus. Not really big because you don't really get evaluated on the quality of the video, but you want to reach a certain base quality level to not get minus points for it. Because this is what I'm thinking here. The quality of the video doesn't really get evaluated, but if the quality of the video, and that means also the experience, is too low, it might drag down all the other scores they give you. The main thing here, in my opinion, is the microphone. Because if your audio is bad, people really don't like to watch a video. So try somehow to get your audio to be as good as possible. If you're using your webcam or your phone to film, there's super cheap microphones you can just plug in and then use them to have much better audio. Also, if somehow possible, try to film in a room that is a little bit more quiet, without a loud AC or a lot of traffic, to just have a as clean as possible audio level. Having some kind of a microphone really helps with that as well. Because, for example, if you have like a small microphone you can just hold to your face, then it won't catch up on that much noise from the outside. And then lastly, if all of this doesn't work, then there is AI tools to improve your audio out there, which might create a little bit of a cleaner audio out of your a little bit noisy or crappy audio. And just as a small bonus here, the camera quality doesn't really matter. It can be on a webcam, it can be on a camera, it can be on a phone, but the more important part is light. If you have enough light and good quality light, just from a window or something, that is worth much more than having a good camera or anything. When it comes to editing the video, I don't have any experience just editing on my phone, so there might be videos on that out there. I edited mine on a computer or a laptop, and if you have no video cutting experience, I can really recommend to just download DaVinci Resolve. DaVinci Resolve is one of the best video cutting programs out there, and the normal version is also free. So there's a lot of tutorials out there and it just works perfectly for everything you need for this basic video. I personally used Premiere Pro, which is part of that Adobe Cloud, which also has all of those features like the AI noise reduction or the tools to clean out your audio, which is very nice, but I don't think you need it. But if you want to use the Adobe Cloud, I think sometimes they have these trial runs to just test the software, and because you just need to produce 2 videos, you should be able to do that in those trial run 30 days or so. Then, after all that process, there's still the question of where to upload it. There's a lot of platforms out there where you can just upload it. They even recommend some on the Dreamapply side. And then you can decide if you want to have it unlisted or listed. Unlisted meaning that only the people from SDSI that have the link can see it. And public obviously means it's on the internet and everyone can see it. Which can be nice for other people applying, but you maybe don't want your video out there. I personally did my thing unlisted. But before uploading, also ask a lot of friends of mine for feedback for the video and how it went. Oh yes, the admission assignment. In my opinion, the hardest part of this entire process, because it is 80% of your grade, but also is a little bit hard to understand maybe. Just as a heads up, I can only talk about how it went for me and my experience with that project. But I can also say that, at least how I understand it, I got the perfect mark for the admission assignment, which ultimately was the thing that let me win the scholarship. So just something to know. I have no idea if all of the things I did were really that beneficial, or if it was just a couple of things. So just take a look at what I did and pick out the things that make sense for you. It is a small-scale service design project where they give you a brief and you have to deliver a solution in 3 parts. First off, the research, a 130-word essay where you condense all your findings and research into that. Then there's the challenge, a 1,000-word essay, and continuing from the first one, defining the challenge further and outlining all the problems and things you found out about it. In the admission assignment PDF, there will be the parts that have to be in there. For the assignment this year, for example, there is cast a light on the ecosystem, identifying key stakeholders such as learners, educators, institutions, policymakers, and technology providers. Discuss how current trends, such as digital transformation, remote learning, or AI integration, or other, impact the future of education. And propose informed hypotheses about the root cause of educational challenges, for example, access, curriculum design, digital literacy, etc. Then provide additional insights that contribute to broader understanding on how education needs to evolve to meet future demands. And the final deliverable is again a 3-minute video where then you have to show a solution to the challenge you identified. And basically present your small-scale service design project. First off, how I went about all of this. I don't really believe that you can just go through each deliverable and finish it up and then move to the next part, because for me at least, I needed to finish up my solution to then finalize the challenge and research part, because I wanted to obviously flow well into each other. That the research flows well into the challenge and the challenge flows well into, well, the solution. But obviously I started off with the research. So this is the process how I went through the assignment. First, reading the brief. This might be very obvious, but it is the most important part. You really need to understand the brief of what it's asking. I feel like the briefs are not that well formulated, so they are on the one side very open, but also open to misinterpretations. What helped me then was the live streams of SDSI that kind of clarified what they meant by that. But generally what I just did was read through the brief, then mark down the things I found interesting, and maybe rephrase or write the brief myself again to really understand it myself, and give it to friends of mine to ask them how they understand the brief. How I understand the brief is that they want to provide a kind of broadish brief to give you a lot of options to pick from. When I applied, our topic was digital waste, which can mean a lot of things. Like the hardware waste that is going on with all the digital devices and software and service we are using, but also things like all the energy that is consumed or all the dead data that's created, all those kind of things. Basically anything and everything. So after reading the brief, where did I go from there? Honestly, I just jumped on Google Scholar and search for digital waste. In this case, it would be education and the future of learning. And for there, so just look at things that give me a general idea of this topic. What I know now is that from there, I should have just picked something and went with it. But at that time, I was very conscious if any of my decision, the initial topic, would be evaluated. If, for example, I work on a AI or crypto topic, like for example the water waste of that, if that is like a super popular thing, would that influence my score because it is a more or less unoriginal topic? I was thinking about that way too much. Right now I believe it doesn't really matter. The initial topic is not interesting, but the subtopic that you then pick from it. So what I would really recommend is just after looking at the general idea of, for example, the future of learning, you will have some kind of idea of what kind of topics are out there. What are the major topics there? For example, AI or remote education. And I believe that as soon as you see that there's enough existing research in that area, just pick whatever you feel best with. And then just move on to the next part, because I believe the next part is just way more important than just picking out the general topic. Because after you picked your just general topic, now starts the actual research. From the major topic of digital waste, I focused myself down to right to repair, which is this idea that there should be a right to be able to repair hardware. And then what I did was really just immerse myself into this topic. Read a lot of articles, watch YouTube videos, documentaries, scientific papers, basically anything and everything I could find about right to repair. What I tried to find is an interesting sub-problem, something small enough and defined enough to work on it. In my case about the right to repair, I found that the EU was currently basically just couple of weeks after submission working on legislation about right to repair. And because those EU papers were public, I was able to read through them and go through the proposed solutions. And there, I just tried to find a small golden nugget, which in my case was that the proposed solution might work super well and looked exciting, but also might not work that well in rural areas. Just because they have other systemic issues that are not really addressed in those papers. I feel like it was a good idea to make it time relevant. So in that case, the legislation that would be voted on very soon. And I also think it was a very good idea to then niche down even more and put it all into your own local context. So in my case, it was about the right to repair bill in rural areas in Germany. Making it very small and local really helps to have a more defined and more quality solution for that very specific context. But also helps with something I did then. That was a little bit of a gamble because the brief, it only talks about working with existing research, which I didn't do because then I added first-hand research, which I did in a way of interviewing people, which I did then with people from rural Germany about right to repair. Even though this was not asked for, I think personally that this really helped my application. Because doing those interviews really helped me to get quality insights that I could then base my solution on. So to be honest, I would really recommend it. If you don't have any experience with user interviews or extreme user interviews, then there's a lot of videos and blog articles online. I might also do a video about that because it's one of the best and coolest tools out there. But definitely a big recommendation from me is while doing those interviews to record them. Obviously ask for permission, but then you can put your phone on the table just recording the audio of the meeting. And then that audio can be transcribed into text. And after having that transcribed text, you can make so many cool things with it. From the transcript, you can get the most important insights or findings, the most important topics they are talking about. And then you also have quotes for everything, which is exciting, because those you can later show in your presentation to really emphasize your point. I, for example, was also showing videos of the meetings and then was able to show parts of the videos during my video solution presentation to just drive home the point and the insight I've gotten, which is what I really try to get from all of this research. Some kind of small, very interesting finding I could create a solution for. Mine, for example, was that elderly people in rural Germany that are living alone because their partners died, for example, really face issues with right to repair. They are already quite vulnerable because they are not that adept with technology usually. But on the other side, are also quite reliant on it, especially when their mobility is impaired in some kind of way. Because there's way fewer places to repair your electronics in those rural areas, and they are mobility impaired, they just can't go there, and it loses them a lot of their freedom, a lot of their self-expression, and can create a cycle where they just get isolated more and more. From that research, I also found out that some elderly people then won't reach out to their family for help because they want to do it by themselves, or there is some kind of reaction where asking them for help will make them feel bad and like they're not able to do anything anymore. So then with all of this research, I worked on creating a solution. What I feel helps a lot in creating a solution is to look at existing services that solve similar challenges. In this case, for example, there was repair cafes in rural areas, but also this bread bus, which a little bit like an ice cream truck was driving into the more rural areas and selling bread there. And then my solution became this concept of a repair truck driving into rural areas, trying out where there's demand, and then providing repair services there on site, or if there's a bigger issue, take the device and bring it back the next time. All of this was just a very simple concept. But what I feel like it really helped me here was that I realized that and addressed that. So I really try to communicate that This is a concept, how this could be implemented, what the limitations of that are, how this is a iterative process, that, for example, it is also not a real fix for the entire issue, but a step to get there. One part that I also felt like it was quite successful is this notion of empowering people, empowering the users, in this case, the elderly in rural German areas for their right to repair. Empowering is a bit of a buzzword in service design, but what it tries to say, I think is very valid. Because in most cases, we really want to give people a lot of their power back, or help them and support them to feel and have actual power somehow. What I feel like also really helped me to create the solution and then present it was a user journey map and to create a service blueprint. These are 2 service design methods, just ways to visualize a journey of a user throughout the service or a experience, and then the service blueprint basically showing how the entire service works on several levels. Both of these you can just find online, explained very, very well. And I feel like creating them really helps you to understand how your service has to work and what is missing, what you can add, what you can get out of there. And then also when presenting it, showing how it works, but also that you thought about all of those things. Now, after you created your fantastic solution, did all the research, did all the defining of the challenge, you only have to create the deliverables. How I created my deliverables was, again, very paranoid, because I decided to really go over the points they said. I structured it in the way that they said what they wanted to see. I also just tried to use the rule of thumb for academic writing, that whenever I had a statement or said anything, that I tried to give a quote for that. For this kind of essay, for me at least, it was also very okay to quote, for example, YouTube videos. I just had to look up the proper format of how to do that. And then for the solution video, I did something that doesn't really make sense, maybe? It was maybe very overly complicated. But what I did was to prepare a presentation and also write a script and then present it like a video in front of the camera and then just talk it into the camera like this kind of video. Then I didn't, for example, skip through the slides live, but cut them in later to match the video. And then I also used a lot of B-roll, zooming into parts, etc. And for me at least, that was way easier to do than, for example, preparing the entire presentation and then presenting it in one go. Because again, it was a video, so I was able to cut it and make it fit. And yet again, I was super paranoid, so I really tried to go over all the points they outlined. And when reviewing the video, I really wanted to be able to say to all the evaluation criteria, yes, that is in there, that is set, there I can get the maximum score. And after you finished all of these things, congratulations, you finished the first stage. And after submitting, it's waiting and praying. Obviously, I wish you the best of luck, because I also believe that there's a certain degree of luck involved in all of this. But then, after a couple of days, I was very excited, because I got a reply email saying I'm invited for the second stage, the interviews. And about the interviews, I really felt like I messed it up there. Because the interviews were these 20-minute Zoom calls with 2 evaluators. And on the day of the interview, I already had scheduled a train ride. Meaning that during my interview, I was on a train with super unstable internet. Meaning that my evaluators probably didn't understand me most of the time, or me, them. Which I feel like really messed up my chances. And so, just as a big tip, when you get your slot for the interview, you get asked if that slot is okay. If there's any kind of reason why it might not be okay, just tell them and they will reschedule a slot with you. Don't do what I did. It was the most risky play ever. It paid off, but it was not worth it. It was really not worth it. If you don't make bad life decisions like I did, you are just in that interview for 20 minutes and have a small conversation with the evaluators. They are 2 random teachers from the SDSI program, and they will just ask you questions, give you space to also ask them questions. And I think this stage serves basically 2 reasons. One of them is a general vibe check. Do they believe that you are a person that would fit into the program? Secondly, just getting to know you, and also if your expectations for the program match and if you might be a good fit because of that. The questions I got were super basic. So first off, just asking who I am, giving like a very short self-introduction, which I did for way too long. And then other normal questions like, for example, why I applied for SDSI, what I'm expecting from it. Some that might be a little bit more tricky for you. For me, they asked me a lot of times if I'm feeling confident in doing teamwork. Possibly because in the cohort before us, there might have been some problems doing teamwork, and because most of the projects and most of the courses are only group work. So I think they just want to make sure that you know that and that you are a good match for that. And then there are those other basic questions that are very relevant for a program like SDSI. One very important question, especially from people from the global south, because some of the program is, for example, in Lapland, how you think you can handle the winter, the cold, the all-day dark or all-day brightness, which I believe is a super valid question, something that can deter a lot of people from the program. And then, after those 20 minutes, you say goodbye, thank you. What I tried to do was to say, okay, see you later, or see you soon. Basically implying and planting the seed in their mind that we will see soon. Like a self-fulfilling prophecy. But that basically was it. And then it's just waiting. And waiting and waiting and waiting. And they give a date when they will send out confirmations. But it was super anxious. After I really messed up with that train ride interview, I really thought, okay, no way I'm gonna be able to do this. And I was debating a lot about if I was able to afford the tuition and how to do it, if they gave me the option to study paid. But then, on a random evening, when I expected it the least, I got a mail. And I read it and had to reread it and reread it and reread it because I couldn't believe it. It said I got the scholarship. Got accepted and got the scholarship. And I think that is a core memory. I think that is a core memory. I was incredibly excited, incredibly happy. Couldn't believe it and just was laughing for minutes. And I really hope that the same can and will happen for you. That is all I know about this application process. This was my journey. And if you have any more questions about any of this, just write them down into the comments and I will do my best to answer them. I will also ask my classmates from different countries to also chime in and answer any questions you might have. All right. See you soon.